Hi, everyone. Kate Berkner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the author of The Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Good morning, Kay.
How are you today?
Pretty good. Looks like we're about to get another set of tornadoes or something in Chicago.
I know the weather here has been crazy. For anyone joining us who is not in the Midwest area, the area where we were has had some tornadoes over the last couple of days, and there actually was a pretty significant amount of damage. So it seems like public services have been able to really help out a lot of families, and I've seen communities really come together, which you never want something like a natural disaster to happen, but it's also really heartening to see people come together.
Yeah, in a crisis.
Absolutely. So the topic that we are talking about today is sympathetic listening. And honestly, this is one of the most powerful tools that you have to really make your kids feel heard and build your relationship with them. So Dr. Phelan, can you start out by telling us what is sympathetic listening?
Yeah, sympathetic listening, or something that people used to call, or still do call, active listening, is an attempt to sort of suspend all your judgments and your lectures and your nagging and all that kind of stuff, and spend a few minutes or more actually listening to a child. And you have two goals. The first is to try and understand what they are saying, and the second is to let them know that you understand what they are saying. And as you said, it's a wonderful bonding technique, but it gives you a chance to understand what your kids are thinking, and it's a excellent and often necessary prelude to trying to solve problems together.
Absolutely. Good morning, Jennifer. Nice to see you joining us. Jennifer's in our comments. So can you give us an example of really kind of the ideal time to use sympathetic listening? What is a situation where, I think there are some situations where it would be obvious, like if a child is feeling very sad about something, your natural inclination is to say, oh, what's wrong? What's going on? What's the situation where a parent, the first instinct might be to do something other than listen to the child, but really sympathetic listening is going to be more effective?
Sure. Well, what you're suggesting is absolutely correct. And that is that one of the cues that it's time to active listen is an emotional response on the child, or a strong emotional statement. And when they're sad, then naturally you may be inclined to do that. But what you're asking about, let me give you an example, is your 11-year-old son, when you're driving him to soccer practice, all of a sudden he's kind of quiet, and he's sitting there thinking, and all of a sudden he says, "This family is so boring." Well, now that's an emotional comment, isn't it? Yes. But your inclination is not to listen. Your inclination is to say something like, "You're not so hot yourself." And that's not a good way to begin.
Got it. So in that situation, what should a parent do? Like, because then you as a parent are like, "Hey, man, like that was kind of disrespectful." And so you don't want that kind of behavior from your child. So what would my steps as the parent in that situation be to kind of engage in sympathetic listening and draw them out rather than just discipline and shut the conversation down?
Right. Well, you don't want to see it as a misbehavior. Expressing an honest opinion is not necessarily a misbehavior. And so you do want to do, as you did with the child who was sad, you want to do what we call an opener. An opener is something that indicates to the child that they're important to you, their thoughts are important to you, and you are willing to spend some time listening to them. So if the child says this family is so boring, there's a million different good openers, but you could say, "Oh, really?" Or you could say, "I've never heard you say that before. What's on your mind? Tell me what you're thinking." All those are openers that communicate to the child that you're willing to listen, that you're not going to shut them down, you're not going to get mad, and that you can have a conversation about it.
Got it. Jennifer has asked if ignoring a comment like that is a good option.
It'd be a big mistake as far as I'm concerned. You have an 11-year-old makes a comment like that. Now, if that comment was totally hostile and followed a huge argument, and then said, "This family is so boring," and the kid goes storming out of the room, you might consider ignoring it because it's really subordinate to the fact that you just had a big fight. But if it comes out of the blue in the situation that I described, ignoring it would be a major mistake.
Okay, so a lot of it depends on context, Jennifer. So if the comment is made with the intention of making you as the parent mad, right? Like, we've just had a big fight, the kid didn't get their way, and then they say that and storm out of the room. Like, clearly that's sort of like supposed to be a parting shot in an argument,
That's right.
right? Whereas the comment made kind of out of the blue in the car, that's actually an attempt at opening a conversation, albeit not very smoothly, right?
Well, but you know, in a sense, there's no way to open that conversation smoothly if that's what the child thinks. But you're right, the child is doing an opener, and you want to follow it with an opener and indicate your willingness to um, talk about it, and that's the best thing to do at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, great question, Jennifer. Jennifer says, what if you have a kid that's always negative?
Okay. Yeah, if you have a child who's always negative, depends on what they're always being negative about. If it's about themselves, about something else. But what you may want to do, depending on their age, is to make an appointment to talk to them. And you say, and so instead of bringing it up on the spur of the moment, you know, I notice sometimes you make comments about this, this, and this, and I'm concerned about that. Sometime you and I need to talk about this. How about sometime we go out to dinner, and after dinner in the car, or before dinner in the car, we're going to talk about some of the comments that you make, because they really they bother me, and I want to find out more about it. So that would be a good way to start with a child who's 8, 10, 16.
So kind of not springing it on them, not turning it into sort of attacking conversation, and also sort of, kind of showing, that's almost like showing respect for their opinion, for their feelings, for their time, that kind of thing.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right, great. So what are some of the other kind of tactics and strategies that parents can use while they're working on their sympathetic listening? Like, what are some of the things they should be doing during that conversation to make sure that a child feels heard?
Yeah. So go back. Remember the goals. The goals, I'm going to understand what this child is saying, even if it kills me, and even if I disagree, and I'm going to try and let them know that I understand. So to the first goal, one of the tactics is what we call non-judgmental questions. So imagine a child says, this family is so boring. A judgmental question would be, why the hell do you say something like that? That's a judgmental question. It's really a rhetorical question. It's a bad question. A non-judgmental question would be, can you tell me more about what you're thinking? That would be a non-judgmental question. You can also do what we call reflecting feelings. Reflecting feelings, it sounds like you're really frustrated with this, and you've been frustrated for a long time. Am I correct? So you're reflecting feelings, and then you're going to your second goal, which is, I want to understand what you feel, and I want to let you know that I understand, and I'm going to check it out with you periodically to make sure I'm on the right track.
Okay, terrific. And then how do sympathetic listening and counting interact in the 1, 2, 3 Magic program?
Yeah, there are times when you'll have a decision to make as to whether or not a comment is in fact just an attack or testing and manipulation or something like this. And the example I sometimes use is your daughter, who's say 10, says, "Mom, my best t-shirt's still in the wash, and I've got to leave in 10 minutes." Okay, so she says something, she's frustrated and so on. That might be a time for active listening, or a time for a problem solving conversation or something like that, but it wouldn't be a time for counting. If she said, on the other hand, "Mom, you idiot, my best t-shirt's still in the wash, and I got to leave in 10 minutes. That's one. That's a little over the top, and I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to count it.
Got it. Okay, terrific. So obviously, sympathetic listening can be a really powerful tool and can have a really big benefit for the kid and for your relationship with your child. What is the biggest challenge that parents are going to run into when it comes to practicing sympathetic listening or active listening with their kids at home?
Yeah, there are two challenges. I think the first challenge is remembering to do it. It's just, our lives are busy, 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 and I don't have time to do this kind of thing. And it's going to take time away if I have to talk to you now when I got to fix dinner and all this kind of stuff. And the second thing, it goes back to your question about, tactics, or how do you do it? You need to understand the game plan. So you need to understand the opener. You need to understand the non-judgmental questions. And one of the biggest things you have to do while you're using those tactics is to restrain your desire to express your opinion. Your opinion is on hold for a while here until you get a good sense from them. If your child who's 16 says to you, last night I got high for the first time, and you say, well, that's just great, you're grounded for the next month. Big mistake. You need information, kiddo, not kiddo, but parents. You need information and you better get it quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think especially for parents who are used to being the problem solver, to realize that it's, you're not necessarily trying to fix what they're doing. You're just trying to, it's a fact-finding mission, right?
To start with, and then you may go into problem solving, but you're absolutely right. A fact-finding mission is a good way to think of it.
Absolutely. Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Phelan. This has been great. If you want to go deeper into the topic of sympathetic listening, Dr. Phelan is going to be doing a free seminar next week on Thursday. So I'll drop the link to that in the comments if you want to register. He's actually doing a free seminar tomorrow on tantrums, if that is a challenge that you have at your house. So I will drop that link in the comments as well. If you do know someone who needs to hear this, please feel free to tag them in the comments or share the video. And if you haven't already, head on over to 123magic.com to get signed up for our newsletter, where we send out weekly parenting videos, tips, downloadables, and more. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.